Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We have a jam-packed episode today of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Going to go over the Florida game a little bit and why it's really not that bad of a setback. I know the game happened, honestly, if it finished right around this time last night. Still going to go over a few parts of it. I'm not going to do a full game recap, but, we're still going to go over some key points. The trade stuff is buzzing today. We're going to get into all those Vancouver talks because I know those have been making the rounds on social media. And we're also going to potentially do a little preview for Friday night's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. That's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. I'm fresh off my wonderful Virginia Tech Hokies getting that massive win against Clemson in the ACC tournament. That was a sweat fest with about 5 minutes left. Clemson forced overtime, looked like it was not going to go VT's way. And then Virginia Tech gets that buzzer beater and sends PJ Hall and the Tigers backing. I always love beating Clemson no matter what sport it is. I'll never stand their athletic programs, AC rivalries to say the least. Anyways, of course, this is a Penguins podcast. So Pittsburgh drops a game to Florida 4-3 on Tuesday night. And honestly, I really wasn't that mad about it other than the final 90 seconds. And I guess I'm going to start with that. Obviously, I think this was a really good effort by Pittsburgh. They led in shot attempts, scoring chances for, high danger chances for, and they also led in expected goals. Pretty good. It was just that Tristan Jarry had a little bit of an off night, and Sergei Bobrovsky was pretty good, I should say. Better than how he usually plays, against the Penguins. But with about 90 seconds left, Sidney Crosby ties up the game about 35 seconds prior. Makes it a one-goal game, 35 seconds prior, 4-3. Penguins have the puck in the offensive zone. They're playing from the point a little bit, but as Kris Letang is going over to his left, he does a drop pass, which then gives Florida an easy clear because Malkin's not ready for it. And then again, they come back into the zone, and Letang makes another bad read. And, I just think with how the Penguins are going right now, and, I know the top line's buzzing. I know Evgeny Malkin is buzzing. In those situations, sometimes less is more. You got to get back to the basics with a 6-on-5. I know the Penguins are usually not that great of a 6-on-5 team when they're down one. I honestly can't even remember the last time this season that they tied a game 6-on-5, 1-goal game. I literally cannot remember the last time. Do they even have that one this year? When I was, doing a little bit of research before this, I really could not find one. And I think a big of that, some of those problems are they're just being too cute at the blue line and they're not firing the puck to the net. I'm not going to be one of those fans or people that cover the team that says, shoot it, as, some of the fans do at PPG Paints Arena or, honestly at every NHL arena. But I think in those situations when, you have established zone time and, you're working up to the point, fire it on net where you have an extra body there willing to do the dirty work in a high danger zone. It's baffling that Tanger was, resorting to these really bad, just drop passes when, I don't mind if it's on a power play and the game is tied, maybe you're up one or something like heck, you're up two. But when you're down one and the stakes are at the highest point of the game, and you're doing that, that's not going to work. And I thought that was honestly the cherry on top for a really poor performance from Kris. For those that have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you all know that I am one of the biggest Kris Letang fans out there. I would hope that most of the fan base is as well. I know how great he is. He's the best franchise defenseman in this franchise's history, has almost every record among defensemen for this franchise. But, he can't play the way he did last night moving forward. I know that's been the outlier this year compared to the norm. I am sure he's going to bounce back in a big way on Friday, but the Penguins need more out of him than that. And honestly, before that stretch at the end of the game, he seemed off with his passes. He also missed 2 to 3 wide open nets that he hits 9 other times. There were 2 times specifically I remember. This was a 1-goal game. I believe it was in the second period. And Kris Letang gets the puck at the left circle and he fires it right into Bobrovsky as he's sliding over when he has at least a half of the net open, if not 3/4 of it. And it's like, man, if you give that to him 9 more times, he hits them every single time. It honestly it was baffling that he missed both of them. I believe the other one kind of rolled on him. And, that was Tanger's kind of luck for that game. When the puck is not going in the net, as was what happened with those two, and he's making bad reads at the blue line, and defensively he's not all the way there as well, especially with, I believe it was Sam Reinhart's goal where he went 1-on-3 and the Penguins defense was really soft in that situation. You can't allow a player to get in that close when you have 3 guys around him. Not a really good performance from Kris. And again, I am sure he is going to be fine moving forward, but for as much as I praise him, I have to, give some negative feedback when he's bad. I have to keep it real here, as some of the kids say, I guess, on the podcast. So that was definitely, a couple of things that stood out to me from that game. But again, also, man, Florida is just ridiculously good. And believe me, I know how good the Penguins are. They're one of the 5 to 7 best teams in the league this year, in my humble opinion. But the way Florida comes at you in waves is something that I think I've never seen before. They're so deep. They have played with a great structure. Their forecheck is ferocious. Defensively, I was really noticing how their defensemen, they play really close together, which is a bit weird because normally all teams, you have one defenseman on one side, on the other on the other side. But in Florida, it was kind of like how they would always, collapse the middle a lot more than normal. There was a couple other times where the Penguins were coming in on either the left or right side, and both defensemen were over there, leaving the other side of the ice exposed. But, it was definitely pretty aggressive, and something that I don't think I've seen a lot this year. And I definitely don't think Mike Sullivan has seen a lot this year. This is definitely a team that's going to cause a lot of other teams fits in the playoffs. I think they can beat Tampa Bay. I think they can beat Toronto. I honestly think they can beat any team in this conference. They are that good. They are that deep. They've gotten the goaltending. Aaron Ekblad is fully healthy. We saw he had the goal last night. He is such a difference maker when he plays. That said, I still thought the Penguins played them pretty tough. It was just that those opening 20 minutes really doomed them. It was kind of weird because Florida just kept attacking and attacking. And I'm like, Pittsburgh, you do realize this team played last night, right? It was a little weird because the Penguins were the team on their heels and they hadn't played in a few days. Yet, Florida played last night, and you would expect them to be gassed a little bit, but they came out firing. And I know the Penguins had a nice bounce back in the second period where they had about 77% of the shot attempts and the scoring chances. Third period, I thought they mostly played pretty good. But you can't fall asleep for the first 20 minutes. That's going to do you in. I know the Penguins were able to tie it 2 goals in 9 seconds. I think that's the fastest 2-goal stretch of the season for the team. Just very impressive. Of course, I'll get to that in just a second. But overall, this is a loss that I can live with. You played them on mostly even terms for 3/4 of the game, I should say. And sometimes the game doesn't go your way. You're tied for second place right now. You're still in really good shape. You're 18 points up on the Columbus Blue Jackets. They only have 25 games left. With where the Penguins are right now, again, it would have to take a monumental collapse for them to fall out of the playoffs. I'm also going to get to this after the commercial break as well, how the Penguins are, for some reason, not good at home this year. Alan T. Yoder actually pointed this out to me on the Locked On Penguins Twitter account. So thank you for doing that. I do have a stat to share with you all for that too. But I'm still fine with the performance. That was the 5th game in this 9-game brutal stretch for the Penguins. They're 3-1-1. Yes, I'm including Columbus because they've actually been pretty hot lately. But they've gotten points in 4 of those 5 games. 7 out of a possible 10 points against some of the best teams in the league. I would say the Penguins have been doing a very solid job in this stretch. They have Carolina, Vegas coming up, and then they also have St. Louis and Nashville on the road. But coming up in the next segment, we're going to get to just, maybe some of the reasons why the Penguins have struggled at home this year. We're also going to get to the 2 goals in 9 seconds, what I really liked about that, and, a couple other things from the game as well. But before we get to that, if I can load this up here real quick, this is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to you, Built Bar. Almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. Yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They are all so good. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs are included. They are low calorie and high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these as well. You can go to built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, and low carb as well. Some of the best flavors, of course, mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. Now, there is still an offer. You can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So, Alan, I want to shout out you for bringing this point up to my Twitter account, the show's Twitter account. I was able to do a little bit of digging. The Penguins have lost 7 of their last 9 games at PPG Paints Arena, 2 and 4 and 3. So they've gotten points in 5 of their last 9 games at home, but they still have full regulation losses. And it is weird because normally under Mike Sullivan, this is one of the best teams at home every single year. I believe they set a franchise record for the best home winning percentage just a few years ago. I want to say they were 32-6-3. I think if that sounds right, it's very close to that. Or it might have been 31-6-4. It was right around there. This year, it's been anything but that. They've struggled really bad at home, but they've been the best road team in the NHL. They have all the metrics for teams on the road that the Penguins are number 1 for every single one: goals against, goals for, wins, all of them. And I've been trying to come up with reasons as to why the team is not as good at home. And I honestly don't really know. I mean, the crowds have been pretty lively. I know, Alan, you were talking to me on the Twitter account, how you were saying that, you have season tickets and the crowds have been really good. I mean, I've been watching all the games at home personally. It seems like the crowds are fired up this year. There's 100% attendance now, with COVID, not nearly as bad as it was a couple of months ago. But I mean, for whatever reason, that they're not starting out games the same way they do on the road and they do at home. And I don't know if it's a lack of effort thing, lack of attention to details. I don't know. They're spooked of PPG Paints Arenas. They're like a ghost in the building. I really don't. I don't think there's a specific reason for it, but it's something they have to correct. And, this is also, I love when the Penguins get home ice because usually they are so good at home. But these last couple of years, they've also not been as good at home in the playoffs too. So I don't know if that's carrying over to the regular season this year, but it's definitely something that I am going to keep an eye on for the rest of this home stretch here and, the home games, the rest of March and all of April as well. Now, switching gears a little bit. So Penguins, they were able to tie the game for a brief point against Florida, 2 goals in 9 seconds. Brian Rust gets the first one. I thought it was Zach Aston Reese coming out of the gulag, but it was one of Florida's players directed it past Bobrovsky. And it's another goal for Rust this year. His price tag continues to increase. And then, again, just a few seconds later, Jake Gensel gets another goal. He always terrorizes Sergei Bobrovsky. And it looked like for a time, the old Bobrovsky was coming out. I didn't really like that goal that he gave up. And it's just the Penguins' quick strike offense is so good. I mean, this is why, excuse me, that they're never out of a game this year. It's just because, when the top line is buzzing like they have been all year, and, it's just good stuff is going to happen. And they had so many quality chances. before those two went in, and it was only a matter of time before the dam was going to break a little bit. But, I also will say this again, the Penguins are never out of the game. They showed that last night. I know Florida was able to take the 3-2 lead off of an Anthony Duclair goal. It looked like at first it was maybe goaltender interference, but, Tristan was able to play his position after, the Florida player was out of his crease. So that was not goalie interference at all. But, again, I liked the pushback in the third. It was just, Bob was making some good saves, and Florida was also playing really well defensively. But, again, I really liked how the Penguins can just, snap out of a little funk with just a snap of a finger and just come back from a 2-goal deficit like it's honestly nothing. Two really nice goals there. Sidney Crosby's goal at the end of the game. Another little vintage Sid goal. He's playing some amazing hockey right now as well. And, I will say this before we get to our next segment. If this game didn't show that the Penguins need more secondary scoring, then I truly don't know what will. I was reading Josh Yohe's article this morning from The Athletic. I'm going to pull these stats up for you all right here, because it is pretty damning just how bad the Penguins' issues are with secondary scoring. Here it is. Evan Rodrigues, since his hot start, 1 goal in his last 25 games. Kasperi Kapanen, 1 goal in his last 24 games. Who knows if he's going to be on the team after the trade deadline. Danton Heinen, he's been pretty good, but 3 goals in his last 22 games. Brock McGinn, good signing, and I think he's better than Brandon Tanev, 2 goals in his past 23 games. Dominic Simone, 3 goals in 52 games this season. Zach Aston-Reese, 1 goal in 50 games. 5 of those players have been in the bottom 6 for most of the year. That's unacceptable. This was a strength of the team in the first half of the season. They were outscoring teams, when Crosby and Malkin were both off of the ice, honestly, the last couple of years. But, this year, especially after that hot start, it's just the depth scoring is dried up. And for a team that is only relying on 1.5 lines right now, heck, only basically 2, that can't happen. Jeff Carter, his play, I think, has also regressed a little bit these last couple of weeks. And, I'm pleading Ron Hextall to go out and make a move for another forward. I know Jason Zucker's return is going to help. It's going to be massive, but just because of his forechecking ability. He can score. Hopefully, his shooting percentage luck actually improves, but you can't have 6 players with that little production throughout the last, 6 to 8 weeks. Also, according to Josh last night, those 6 players combined for just 4 shots on net. It's unacceptable. I'm sorry. The Penguins cannot win games when their depth is that bad. I'm not going to sit here and say it's 2014 level when Zach Sill and Maxime Lapierre and Marcel Gotch before he got traded and, Tanner Glass were on the ice. But, this is still pretty bad. And it's something that needs to fix if the Penguins want to win games down the stretch, and especially win in the playoffs and hopefully make a deep run. So I will end here with that. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to go around the trade carousel a little bit. There was a whole bunch of rumors that popped up today out of Vancouver. So stick with that coming up here in this next segment. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So, a lot of rumors, as I just said a couple minutes ago, swirling out of Vancouver. There was a couple Vancouver, sports talk radio hosts today that, obviously Derek Clancy was at the Penguins game last night. He thinks they're looking at John Marino and Evan Rodrigues. And he says, something could be cooking there with regards to a Brock Boeser package. So if the trade were to be Brock Boeser for John Marino, Evan Rodrigues, it sounds good in theory, right? But the couple questions I do have, A, are you going to accept Brock Boeser's 7.5 qualifying offer next year? Probably not, with all the players they have to re-sign. B, if you trade John Marino, who is going to be the player that steps up in a top 4 role with Marcus Pettersson? Is it Chad Ruhwedel? I think he's a fine player, but can he consistently play top 4 minutes? Personally, I don't think he can. Is it Mark Friedman? Again, I like Mark Friedman. He's actually been really good as of late. The expected goals god, of course, as you know, we all call him on Penguins Twitter. But can he consistently play top 4 minutes? I personally don't think so. Now, are you going to move P.O. Joseph over to that side? Are you going to move Mike Matheson over to that side? No, because he's, they both are left shots, and especially Matheson has been great on his regular side this year. He's getting closer to a return. I think he's going to come back before Jason Zucker is. He's already skating with the team in a non-contact capacity. So in that situation, you're going to have to go out and probably make another deal to get a top 4D. And honestly, the market for defensemen this year, I don't think is that good. I mean, Josh Manson is out there, but, what, you're going to go out and get Ben Sherratt, give up a first-round pick for that guy? I mean, he has a 40% actual goals rate with, I believe, a 35% expected goals rate this year. I mean, I know he's on a really bad team, but I'm not giving up assets to get that guy. That's for damn sure. I don't think Montreal is going to trade Jeff Petrie. That's for damn sure. I think that's going to be an offseason move, at least in my opinion. But, I don't think it's worth it to, trade, I think, key components of the team for a player that has a $7.5 million qualifying offer. That's just my opinion, though. Let me know what your opinion is. You can tweet me at Hunter Hodes, the show's Twitter, LO_Penguins, DM me on either one, comment on the YouTube page, of course. I don't know. Rodrigues, I would probably be fine with parting just because he's not been good lately, and I don't know if the team is going to re-sign him after this year. But I'm a little hesitant to give up John Marino right now. I feel like that's a move that you make over the offseason. I'm all for selling high on him. I don't know how, if he's going to be that much better than this moving forward, but I just don't think now is the time, at least in my opinion. There's also rumors surrounding Connor Garland that the Penguins are looking at him. He would, I think, make a lot of sense. If I can find the tweet here. Chris Johnson basically, he said there's interest in Garland, but he has term left, which makes it more difficult. I would love to go get Garland. I think he makes a lot of sense. If you look at JFresh's stuff, his projected wins above replacement is 89%. Even strength offense, 76th percentile, even strength defense, 72nd percentile. Really good finishing ability. He also makes less than Brock Boeser. I believe it's about almost $1 million less. I think it's 5 times 5. So definitely a lot of term left, but are the Penguins really going to go out and get someone with a lot of term left at the deadline? I'm not sure. I feel like if they are going to go get someone, it's probably a rental, which is why Boeser might make more sense in that regard. But it's just like with his qualifying offer, and if you want to give up Marino and Rodrigues, I just don't know if that is worth it, at least in my opinion. But the Vancouver, media, they've been talking this all up. The Garland contract matches up pretty closely with Marino's contract, which is true in theory. Marino makes 4.4, Garland 5, so $600K difference. I think the Penguins would be able to make that work, though they would probably have to, kiss Brian Russ goodbye for this foreseeable future. I would hope they would be able to get Letang and Malkin under contract in that one, but we'll have to see. I'm gonna have to go on Cap Friendly and play around with this. I'm sure Jackson, who always DMs me, who listens to the show, may send me a Cap Friendly lineup. I'm gonna have to do some more of that myself here as well. I also don't know if I would do Garland for Marino. I don't know. Something just, I guess I'm just really hesitant to give up on him this early, because if he does blossom into a really good defenseman, I think that would kind of just, make me a little upset, to say the least. But, trade season's in full force. We're almost a week and a half away now from the deadline. It's, this is a hot topic. We'll have to see if the Penguins do anything. I was listening to the Jeff Merrick show today with him and Friedman, and he said that they can't really see Brian Burke and Ron Hextall sitting on their hands because of how competitive they are. So we'll see. 12 days away right now from the trade deadline. I'm curious to see what happens with what they do. Penguins still have time, though, to make a move on their next game, Friday against Las Vegas. I have a full game preview for that coming on Thursday's episode. And of course, a couple other items to get to as well before I'll have a full game recap on Friday and then a preview of what's to come on Sunday. So that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. And I will be back with you all on Thursday.